The Hawaii Sports Radio Network on 95.1 FM and AM 760 presents Wake Up in the Den with Agbayani.
Good morning, beautiful people. It's Wake Up in the Den. Agbayani and Paul Brecht. Happy Aloha Monday. Man, what a weekend. First full slate of college and NFL football. Oh my goodness, I can't believe we were here. There was a lot. I feel like my mind is just on sensory overload. Then I remembered why during the quote unquote off season is why Sundays I usually just binge watch reality TV or watch movies, because I have almost like by Friday night and this morning, I'm like, oh, I feel like a little bit of brain fog in a sense, just because I watched so much football as it went from Saturday to Sunday, which I'll tell you guys a really funny story coming up in the show on how my first experience with YouTube TV went yesterday. It was quite epic, but not epic at the same time. I am still, despite yesterday's loss, I'm still wearing my Bears hat loud and proudly for all the beautiful people that are going to watch on our YouTube channel that you can see. Again, we moved our YouTube Fridays to YouTube Mondays because we know it's going to be a packed show every time to recap the weekend now that it's football season. But as you guys can see also, if you watch YouTube, that Paul here, because it is Monday Night Football and his team has not played yet, he is repping his Jets as they take the field tonight for Monday Night Football against the Bills, which will be epic. We will get into the game preview a little better, but rep your shirt a little more for the beautiful people on camera there.
We're out here today. We're repping. I wore my favorite of my Jets shirts with me, and like I was telling my roommate last night, the vibes are good for now. About an hour before game time, I'll talk myself into everything that can possibly go wrong, and then as soon as first snap goes, it'll be just locked in, full watching. Boy, it's time. Yesterday was enjoyable because I didn't have to stress it all. Today it's time. Rubber hits the road for my New York Jets.
And we will see if they turn the page. But like I said, coming up in the show, we will definitely recap some of the games that happened yesterday in the NFL, and then have Paul get us some of his takeaways, or I guess not takeaways, but what he hopes and can expect from the game tonight that will highlight Monday Night Football between the Jets and the Bills. But first, of course, got to talk about the University of Hawaii football game. Hawaii comes out with the win, 31-20 over U-Albany. And I know they will still have the people that are like, well, it's an FCS school, so they better win. You know what? Coach Chef said it best last week as well. He's like, FCS is not what it used to be, back, and not even maybe like, even as soon as maybe 5+ years ago, it was still very much, there was like this huge disparity between FCS and FBS, which is what, for those that don't know, FBS is where you see your main Division I football teams play, including Hawaii. But FCS has definitely been on the rise, especially now with the emergence of NIL. It's really leveling the playing field. So going into this game, I myself were one of those people that were not looking at U-Albany as they're an FCS school and we're bigger than them. It'll be fine. They kept Marshall really scared last week. So, but fortunately, Hawaii comes out on top. Was a little nerve-wracking in the first half, though, not going to lie, just because it was, went into it tied. But fortunately, Hawaii kind of broke the streak of not being able to score in the third quarter, and they put up a touchdown. We saw a lot of action from players that we haven't seen, including Najee Bryant-Lele, who was actually banged up. So having him come into the game, that is exactly the type of thing that you needed when we talk about having a big back that's in the game, someone that has that bursting speed. And you could see it. He didn't play a significant ton because he's still slowly getting into game mode and game shape because he got injured during fall camp, or Saturday was his first game back. But it was nice to see that bursting type of speed, that big back expectation that we needed, because even Tylen Hines is a little banged up. So a lot of people, Cam Stone was out there. That is more of a precaution. Again, it's similar to, it's kind of weird that it's going on in the NFL too. So for those that are kind of comprehend what's going on with Cam Stone, it's similar to like a Travis Kelce situation where it's just a really bad injury, but it's not detrimental to his season. So we can expect to likely either see Cam Stone this week, or at most he'll be back next week, but we'll get more clarification as the week goes on. But hey, next man up. And when we play Timmy Chang's post-game press conference a little later in the show, he'll mention that too. He talks to these student athletes that this is what happens, and that's the life of a student athlete. You're going to have your high days and your low days, and you just got to come into the game and be ready, or expecting and getting ready. Well, not get ready, but be ready to step in there. And I think we saw that a lot from this University of Hawaii team. We saw Jonah Panoke find the end zone. We saw Jalen Walthall, who we haven't really seen at all this season as well. And as I mentioned, Najee Bryant-Lele, aka Mojo. So if I accidentally drop in the Mojo, his nickname is Mojo. I think Timmy even calls him Mojo in the post-game press conference. But it was a good look for the UH. I think this was a good game to help them kind of get reset after that disappointing loss to Vanderbilt that we so could have won, and then that almost kind of a slow motion game that it felt like we played opening up the homestand against Stanford. And so this was a good reset, I feel, against a UAlbany team who is not a pushover, but definitely someone that Hawaii should have and did beat as they get ready and prepare for a big time, big boy football going out there to Eugene, Oregon.
Yeah, I think you put it pretty well in terms of it was a game that the Bows both needed to win and should win, but not necessarily because Albany is a pushover team. You mentioned it before. They gave a really big scare to Marshall in week 1, another FBS program, a quality FBS program at that. And that was kind of the first flag where it was like, oh, okay, this isn't going to just be a walk in the park and whatever. And I wrote it a bit in the recap that you can check it out on our website, hawaiisportsradio.com, under the Hawaii football tab. And it talks about how this Bows team is still learning how to win, right? Last year under Timmy Chang, 3-10, a team who was in a lot of games in the second half of the year, had a lot of improvement, showed some of that talent. But now this year we saw, okay, now we're in games. Now we're fighting until the very end. That 1-score loss to Vanderbilt, 2-score loss to Stanford, 2 Power 5 schools, 2 schools who are in quality conferences in the SEC and the Pac-12, who set a new record with 8 ranked football teams.
We'll talk about that as the week goes on as well with the Pac-12.
But no, you have 2 showings in your first 2 weeks against programs who probably have more resources than you when it comes to football. And you compete against them, but you shoot yourself in the foot too much. You make too many mistakes to be able to win those games. And they still made plenty of mistakes. I asked Coach Chang about it in the postgame, 11 penalties for 100 yards still, and some of those coming in really big moments, and if that concerned him at all. And he kind of went back and forth on it, and you'll hear his answer later on. But it's something that this time the Bows could get past. They learned what they needed to do to overcome those moments. They went into halftime tied. They had to face some adversity at halftime. And then they come out in the second half. They only give up the 1 field goal there, and it's far, far better. So that's the way that I'm taking this game, is that like you said, people are going to complain no matter what. Like, it's just, you went into this game with your preconceived notion. Either the Bows were going to win by 30, or you knew it was going to be a hard-fought game. And if they didn't win by 30, which they didn't, then you're going to be frustrated by it. But at the end of the day, I took it as these young Bows are starting to learn. They're finally starting to learn the mistakes they can and cannot make, and they're starting to learn, most importantly, the little things that it takes to win college football games. And that's going to be really important going forward. Maybe not this week against number 13 Oregon, who is a very, very solid program, and, whatever, it's tough to go on the road to the mainland, blah, blah. But the Mountain West hasn't started yet, and that's something that these Bows have their eyes on. They're ready to compete against all these other schools. They we played the clip where they felt disrespected by the 3.5 wins. They feel disrespected sometimes by the lines. Well, at some point, you have to go out there and start winning games, and that's what they finally did this past Saturday.
Yeah, that's how you get the respect. Respect is, given when you prove that you deserve it. And so far, yes, if we had dropped the loss to this game, then it would have been all out the door and all hope. We obviously on this show, we try to stay positive, but it would have been hard to recap the game if it ended up in a loss, but it didn't. So focusing on the win and the positives, again, a lot of people at that running back position touched the ball. I mean, they have 5 players listed in the box score. I guess 6 if you include Braden Shager, who he had kind of a frustrating game. I was texting Paul back and forth after the game, and I have to, after I get over the emotion of that game, he did finish, by the way, with 266 yards, 4 touchdowns, but sacked 5 times. A lot of those sacks again, just didn't come because of the offensive line not giving him enough time. It's just can't scramble, doesn't know when to get rid of the ball, but he's learning, and you'll hear Timmy Chang also talk about Braden and kind of the growing pains that he's still going through. And I have to remind myself as well that, he wasn't recruited by this coaching staff. He wasn't recruited for this offense, and this coaching staff doesn't have all of their recruiting tools in place that they would probably want to see to give Braden Shager more weapons. So it is still very much year 2. This is still the growing pains. If we're seeing this similar situation happen in year 3, then I would say we could start getting really frustrated. But it's still because Timmy Chang and this coaching staff, we believe in them so much, right? And I guess we put it where our expectation is just so high, even though it's year 2. And I got to backtrack and be like, wait, Kool-Aid, it's still year 2. You tell everyone that year 2, we're still learning, we're still growing. And I have to keep reminding myself about that as well, where they're still very much making things work with the pieces that they have and doing what they need to do to recruit everyone that they need to run a successful run and shoot. And then obviously with the players you do have that you brought in, that you very much believe in, you suffer these injuries like a Cam Stone. However, Stephen McBride stepped in just fine in returning. You'll hear him kind of reference that if you go on our YouTube. Paul asks them actually that question, I believe, right, about getting in there and getting some special teams playing time. So we'll play Timmy Chang's post-game press conference for you on the show. But if you want to hear from a couple of the players, including Peter Manuma and Stephen McBride, you can go on to our YouTube channel as those videos are there. But there will continue to be some growing pains, and I have to bring down my frustration. And thank you to Positive Paul for helping me talk me down a ladder on Saturday because I'm just like, I can't.
It was a frustrating Saturday. It really was, and that was part of the reason why we were texting in the first place. And if you listen to Coach Chang talk about it, he's almost exasperated after the game, where he's like, a win's a win, but that was an ugly one.
Yeah. And I should actually channel more of my frustration with a lot of those mistakes because, again, second consecutive game drawing 100 or more yards in penalties. You cannot do that. You need to clean it up. Coach Sheffield talked about it last week where when they practice, they play and they practice very, very clean. Now, how do they get that clean football into the game? Because once you give up the 100 yards, Paul wrote it in last week's Stanford write-up where you gave up 6 first downs essentially because of penalties. So all those little things, you can't harp on shoulda, coulda, woulda, but at the same time, the game ends up being a lot different if you just play clean football, and that's the kinds of things that you can help. You can, hey, like I said, the players, injuries, all this stuff will happen. Braden's still coming into his own in the position in the true run and shoot, but you have to, if you can just clean up the football, the game can look a lot different.
Yeah, at the end of the day, and it's that way in all sports, right? It's if you play a clean brand of whatever sport that you're playing, your talent level doesn't matter as much. You're able to compete maybe above what your talent level states that you should be at. And that's something that, we see with Albany. Albany plays a very clean brand of football where I wrote it in the preview. They're not a team that turns the ball over too much, and a big reason why the Bows won, they were finally able to create some turnovers. The first interception of the career and the first turnover of the season goes to Elijah Palmer, the true freshman. Noah Kemma comes up with a big-time fumble return in the second half there. But think about that when you're thinking about an FCS school that is now 2 weeks in a row competed with, I will say, in my opinion, solid FBS programs, teams who are expected to compete week in and week out this season. They came in on the road both times and gave both those teams a scare. It's because they don't turn the ball over. It's because they have a decent enough running attack, and they've got a good defense that doesn't get penalized too much. That's something that the Bows can emulate going forward. Like you said, just have to clean up those little things because the talent is there. It's just you can't make those mistakes and give those free opportunities to these other teams because the talent's there for them as well.
And speaking of the defense, just a couple more things before we have to head to break. When you look at some of our defense, they did what they needed to do against a lesser team, right? We talked about how they really didn't. It felt like the defense didn't do much against a team like Stanford, but at least against UAlbany, we got 4 sacks for 43 yards, 9 tackles for loss for 51 yards. Peter Manuma, as we mentioned, is a part of the post-game press conference video on YouTube. He had 8 tackles, 7 solo. So we really saw this defense. And again, that's the kind of thing that we needed. Like I said, we needed this reset. We needed a win, but we also needed kind of these individual wins for a lot of these top talents on the team to really feel like, all right, there you go. I feel good. I had a good game. I contributed. And now it's easier to just turn the page as you are focused on such an enormous opponent going out to Eugene and playing the Ducks. So good reset. Still a little frustrating. I don't think I've ever been this frustrated like after a win or in a while, but again, it's at least a win is a win. At the end of the day, a win is a win, just like we talked about last season. Oh, Hawaii only lost by a little bit of points. Well, at the end of the day, a loss is a loss. So you know what? We're going to take it. A win is a win, and we won by more than 10. So at least when we look back, we're like, okay, we figured it out in the second half. We did go into the half tied, but it's okay. We figured it out and just got to play cleaner football.
Well, and that's kind of the thing, right, is when you go back and you look at it, if you do just the score, I don't know how you feel about 11 points, but, Braden threw a pick six, threw across the field, and Larry Walker Jr. reads it perfectly and takes it directly back to the house. You take those 7 points off the board, the defense only gives up 13 total points. That's a really good performance by your defense. You take off 1 interception from Braden, and we're probably feeling a heck of a lot better about 4 touchdowns, career high 4 touchdowns, by the way, and only 2 interceptions, whatever. I wrote it in the preview as well. Braden has this propensity to follow up clean games like he had last week against Stanford, where he didn't throw in a single interception or have a fumble. He does have a propensity to follow it up typically with a game where he tries to make a throw or 2 throws where it's trying to do a little too much and it results in a turnover. And I was curious to see if that switched this year. It didn't quite yet. But now he gets another opportunity against another solid program next week to not only build on top of the career high 4 touchdown passes, continue to build on top of, he's had over 250 yards passing every single week so far this season, can build on all of that.
He went into the game being the leading passer in the country.
Exactly. And then just take care of the football. And if he takes care of the football and if the Bows as a unit can take care of the football, stranger things have happened. We saw Oregon almost go down this week to Texas A&M.
That's true. Texas Tech.
Or Texas Tech.
I remember texting Paul. I was like, Texas Tech with the eyeball emojis like, what's going on here? Oregon did recover, though. But yes, you're right. Exactly. Anything can happen. Stranger things can happen. But we got to step aside way up against the break because we can just keep talking about UH football. When we come back, we will play for you, all of you beautiful people, especially those that didn't watch it on our YouTube channel, Timmy Chang's post-game press conference next on Wake Up in the Den.
Wake Up in the Den with Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Kule, Agbayani, Paul, Brecht. Having our... Oh, let the beat drop.
had to let it get there, even if it was just in a subdued way.
You just have to, yeah. As we're talking all about UH football, baby. Oh, man. I'm just like reminiscing about that game. Again, a win is a win.
A win is a win. I'm choosing to take all of the good from that game, and I'm just taking the bad, and I'm pushing it behind us. Jonah Pinoke on his birthday makes a return to the field, catches four passes for 46 yards, I believe it was, and a touchdown. Awesome to see him back out there. Stephen McBride continued his awesome start to the season. 3 games, 5 touchdowns. So he's been phenomenal. Pofele Ashlock continues a nice start to the year. Even a quiet game by his standards, and he comes up with still a team-leading 74 yards. He's just the favorite target of Braden Shager, quite obviously. So plenty of good. You mentioned the defense as well. A couple of turnovers they force. So I choose to take those positives, and we'll pick up the pieces from there.
And then someone like a Jordan Johnson, who led the team in rushing.
He was awesome.
Had 11 carries for 76 yards and a long of 28 yards. And we talked about earlier the return of Najee Bryant-Lele, a.k.a. Mojo, who returned as well. 8 carries for 35 yards, but really had those like breakthrough yards when we needed it, and was just really phenomenal to watch. Tylan Hines still there, but hey, 30 yards, but that was still good.
On just 4 carries.
Yeah, again, it's like, okay, we're kind of getting there. At least a lot of these players, individual players, had kind of this reset game that they needed to feel like, all right, here we go. We're having our good game. We're getting ready, something that they can be proud of, but completely spread the ball around everywhere. I mean, even at receiving. That's how you know, right? When you look at the final box score and you're just like, wow, these are a lot of players listed under here.
Yeah, all of the weapons in this offense are starting to get that block to build off of. That's why I was happy to see Tylan get those 4 carries and even break some off for decent gains there. Obviously, we know he can do so much more, but Timmy mentions it, and you guys will hear it coming up. He's playing a little bit banged up. Tylan's playing a bit banged up. So many guys are playing banged up for these Rainbow Warriors. So just remember that we don't always know everything that's going on behind the scenes. They don't share everything with the general public, and that's purposeful. These guys are tough. They're trying to play through stuff, but also some gamesmanships in there as well.
Yeah, just a little bit, as we still see also Solo Vaipulu still in there wearing the 0. Didn't have his, a decent game, but he's kind of set up there as a running back and wearing the number of a running back, but he's essentially that other blocker because he is traditionally an offensive lineman. All right, so the audio of Timmy Chang's press conference actually does start off with him answering a question that was basically about, just the different look, having different players in there, seeing kind of a change and spreading out the ball. So here is Timmy Chang following their game on Saturday.
It's the growth of our team that guys just they keep developing, right? And I sit right here in this room and I tell them, like, the life of a student athlete is going to go up and down, constantly roller coaster. And it's the highs are going to be highs, the lows are going to be lows, but you got to keep developing. You got to keep your mindset right. You got to keep making good choices. And there's going to be a point where guys do go down, or it's the next guy up, or the other guys are not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and you get your opportunity. You have to make the most of it. And I think that's what you've seen in some of the different cases of our team, whether it's injury or consistency. Guys get opportunities and they make the most of them. And so.
A couple areas where there's been some criticism were much improved tonight, such as the takeaways by defense, especially a very crucial one in the fourth quarter. And I don't really think of running game, but more like vertical game, including the running game, right? Much improved. So could you comment about that, especially heading off to a very tough opponent?
Sure. You want to be a complete football team, and that's what we're trying to work on. Passing has been a little bit of our strength in the first 2 weeks. Last year, in the first 2 weeks, you would say the run game has been our strength. And so as we kind of grow together, you kind of want to start pulling the pieces together to consistently do those things correct, and they are. I mean, again, we got new guys in different spots and different positions. Guys have only played their third game ever collegiately, and they're learning as they go. And then we'll correct them as we go. But yeah, tough opponent next week. I thought the defense did a great job of taking the ball away. I thought, just on a comment, just the 2 4th down stops by their defense and our defense stopping them on 4th down, as well as creating a turnover and flipping the field position. I mean, I thought those were key points in the game at that time that really, really helped us. And that's complimentary football, right? We're trying to get half yards. We feel like we can get these half yards, but when we don't, the defense goes in and they do their job and they don't flinch, and that was huge. That was a big growth, I thought, moving forward.
To continue kind of talking about the run game tonight, you had pretty much 4 options available, kind of running back by committee, with your 4 backs, including Solo. Kind of talk about that and having that depth as far as, the last 2 games you were kind of limited with that, with Najee being out, and just kind of having that depth at that position tonight.
Sure, we've been low at that position with losing Mojo in training camp, losing Jordan early on in training camp. Tylen's been a little banged up. We lost Landon, and so to start to get these guys back, it really helps. It really adds depth to what we're doing. And then we're also letting our offensive line gel and gain some confidence inside there. And so we'll go back to the film. This is good film for them. Even as a win, those guys. I mean, I got guys in the locker room crying because they can play better. And so they're starting to feel it, and they're starting to understand the magnitude of how they play and what that means for us. And so that's even though it hurts for them, there's going to be growth that comes out of it.
Hey, Coach, you referenced the 2 4th down stops in your territory that they made. How did you guys overcome the frustration in that moment to pull off some key plays of your own there?
Yeah, the defense. I mean, the defense, they didn't budge. I felt like, something happened in there where they started getting their quarterback a little bit uncomfortable. You could see he wasn't settled in making those throws that he was making in the first half. And so something kind of flipped inside there, that they were able to get some stops. Didn't let them, didn't knock down the runs. A lot of contested passes inside there, and so they did a hell of a job of stopping them, and then creating that turnover on that option and flipping the field for us. And so, and it's a crucial part. I mean, it's still a tight game. It's 24-20 with giving up the ball and going for those 4th downs in our territory. And so I thought the defense did an awesome job.
Coach, talk about what it's going to feel like to be able to go up to a Pac-12 school, I mean, especially like in Oregon, where they ran 472 total yards of offense, 10 of 18 on 3rd downs, and time possession, 32 minutes and 15. So, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, they're a good opponent. They're going to compete for a Pac-12 championship. In their minds, they're a CFP team, and it's going to be tough. It's a tough game, and so we got to get healed up. We got to get ready to go. We got to have a tough mindset. And again, it's a good experience and a mindset and mentality to get ready to go into this week. I expect our boys to be up for it. Playing an opponent like Oregon, and we'll get them ready.
Hey, Coach, congrats on the win. In the heat of the moment during games, choosing to go for on 4th down, in their territory and your territory, what kind of goes into that decision making?
Yeah, I mean, it's a yard, and you feel like you can gain a yard or an inch, inches in some cases, half a yard, feet, and you go for it. You don't want to turn over the ball and give them back a chance to get the ball, even though it's on your side. I think the second one was a little bit more dicey, but in my opinion, I did run punt in my mind, but I felt like we can get a half yard. Now that film is going to be really good unto us teaching them why we didn't get a half yard. And just being a coach and not having seen the film, there's definitely going to have been penetration, which starts at fundamental and techniques, and we can fix those things and we can show them. And you win a game like this, there's so much teachable moments in a win that you can have from this thing. And so we feel we got to have the mentality, and you know, the guys from last year, we keep talking about these guys from last year that set the tone. These guys taking over, these guys coming together, sometimes playing for the first time. You know, it's an opportunity for them to learn and grow, and they'll get better from it.
I know that you might not be able to say too much about this yet, or you might not even know too much yet about it, but there were a lot of injuries, and your spiritual, physical leader, Logan, is there anything you can say yet about availability of some of these guys yet?
No, I don't know. I know he was, there was no pressure on that leg as of right now, and so I'm assuming he'll be, you know, in the training room and getting it looked at tomorrow, and we'll know more through the week.
He's the kind of guy you're gonna have to keep him off you have to force him off the plane.
For sure. A guy like Logan is our captain and our spiritual leader. And missing a guy in a voice like that in every play is you know, it's tough. But you know, we have other guys that are going to step up. You know, I really believe Isaiah Tufonga is a really true leader as well. And then we have a little bit more veterans on that side of the ball, and so I expect them to all rise up and step up, and coming into this week and moving forward.
Coach, you know, was it Noah came in for Logan on that next play? And what can you say about the play he made on that option?
Yeah, I think, you know, and not just Noah receives the benefit and scooping and being athletic and scooping and running with it. But I think they knocked it all down from the front to our safeties to our corners being in the correct position, and really caused some pressure on that guy. So Noah receives the benefit, but for sure, defensive team effort play, and that should be praised and awarded in here on Monday when I get to talk to these guys again.
Coach, you mentioned teachings and how this team has been able to play. What have you learned so far from this team as you've already played 3 games already?
Sure. You know, young, talented, and learning how to win. It would be the thing to talk about. And they're understanding these choices and what they do on and off, especially off the field, affect what we do on the field. And so continue to build that. And hopefully it's building confidence as these guys are making plays, they're making blocks, they're making tackles, they're making throws, catches, all these things. It's building confidence in them that they can do it and they can play at a high level.
Coach, tonight another night of penalties as well, 11 penalties for 100 yards. Is that something that concerns you as it continues to be kind of something that continues to pop up game after game, these penalties, and especially big moments?
Yep. Definitely the discipline. It's the discipline in what we do and how we do it, and you know, that's a reflection of me. You know, when there's penalties like that, and you know, personal fouls and those type of things. I mean, straight reflection of me, and so I take that personal, and we'll get it fixed.
Coach, you look at Shaker's performance today. He had some great plays. He had some turnovers that hurt you guys, but he kept on coming. Talk about your belief in him, because he comes through late in that fourth to give you that go-ahead, that touchdown that pretty much seals it. Talk about his development, how he's gone, even though the ups and downs, and he's learning this offense. How would you evaluate, you know, as he goes through these ups and downs?
Sure. He's exactly what I thought he was when I saw him play against us in Nevada. Just tough. He's a tough kid. You know, he's gonna make mistakes. I get it. You know, we all do, and we all did. But he's tough. He stands in there. He tries to make the throws. Is he perfect? Is his eyes in the right spot? Is his rhythm correct? No, not yet. But he continues to develop and grow and understand. And again, you know, we're in the moment and heat of things, and it's just, you know, we're constantly talking and reminding him about how to be, where to be, what to look at, and he's growing. You know, he's growing, and so not everything is on him in some of these cases. You know, and that's the tough thing about playing this position, right? There's some things that we're talking about, that some miscommunication things and some misfundamental things that it looks like it's all on him, but really it's shared culpability, I guess, right? And so And that's the tough thing about playing the quarterback position, really, especially in this state and in this offense, firsthand.
And that was UH football head coach Timmy Chang and the post-game press conference following their win on Saturday, 31-20 over UAlbany. And that was a little fun chuckle. And as he referenced, Braden Shaker again, still learning, going through some growing pains, but it's not all on Braden. And I loved how Timmy threw in that ending there where it's like, I know how it is firsthand, but we got to step aside. So we'll be back on Wake Up in the Den.
Back to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to all of you, the beautifulest of all the beautiful people. It's Wake Up in the Den, Ku'ulei Agbayani and Paul Brecht. Got a little dance on.
Got to keep the vibes high on this Aloha Monday. You know how it goes.
And we want to make the YouTube beautiful people laugh when they go and watch this and
They're
they
always
see us
giggling watching us.
Yeah, seeing our dance moves that we bust out as we come from commercial break. But again, we do this even when the cameras are not on. So go out to our YouTube channel. Be sure to like, subscribe. As we mentioned, you heard Timmy Chang and his post-game press conference. You can watch that on our YouTube channel. You can also watch the post-game presser with players Peter Manuma and Stephen McBride as well. So Hawaii Sports Radio on YouTube or hawaiisportsradio.com and click on the Hawaii football tab if you want kind of like everything, including those videos that have anything to do with Q&As with UH football, a lot of Paul Brecht's recaps and previews and takeaways from the game. So you can get it all on one tab at hawaiisportsradio.com. And also the first installment of our Hawaii Players Pod presented by Hawaii Pacific Health that features running back Tylan Hines. So be sure to go check that out. And speaking of, we're going to actually film our second installment of the Hawaii Players Pod that will feature Rainbow Wahine setter Kate Lang. So that'll be fun with Olivia Austin. So be sure you guys stick around for that. That'll probably come out in a couple of weeks by the time we're all done and recording on everything. So we got a lot of things going on over here at Hawaii Sports Radio. So we're just moving along and a lot of things coming up this week. We have the return of OI volleyball happening this Thursday. We're going to bring you Kaiser and McKinley, Chaz Mihara, and introducing a new broadcaster. Her name is Kara McLean that will join our girls volleyball and our HPU women's volleyball broadcast. So Kara is a former HPU player and she is also a youth coach. She's actually, speaking of Hawaii playing at Oregon for football, she is actually originally from Oregon, and has a lot of her people that she knows here. So fun to introduce more and more ladies to our broadcast. Come over here into our sports radio world that we have here. I can't be the only one.
No, it's so much fun. I love when we get an opportunity to add in new members to our team, new members to our family here at Hawaii Sports Radio Network. And especially, like you said, you can't be the only woman in this sphere. We need more women to be talking plenty on these airwaves, and we're going to give those opportunities out here. It's really cool to see, really excited to hear her on her first call on our station here, and then going to hear her going forward as well. And also very thankful just to have somebody else very knowledgeable about the sport. That's something I worry about sometimes with broadcasts when I take it in as a consumer. I always want to make sure the people I'm listening to are knowledgeable. That's not something I worry about with her, even in the slightest bit.
Yeah, and it's always about if you played, right, is always a big thing. And then she's very well spoken, so that's another thing obviously in broadcast. But I feel like the prerequisite for that color analyst position is likely someone if you played or just have been around the sport for a very, very long time. So hence why you'll only hear me on basketball and soccer doing analyst work, and you won't see me get near football because Paul and I are very real on this show. I feel like I know more than the average Joe, but I am not going to sit here and say that I know anywhere near as much about football as like our Darnell Arsenal knows, because he's played at a very, very high level, has coached and everything. So that's why I'm like, you know what, we can only like do so much that we know. But then you have someone like somewhat geniuses like Paul who can fill in for football when we need him to and still do an awesome job.
You're too kind. Too kind. No,
But you won't hear.
We have so many smart
I'm
people here.
not as talented as Paul when it comes to the play-by-play analyst position. So I'm very real with myself. You will not see me in that football chair. The only time you will, however, is if it's like some kind of crazy circumstance and someone cannot make it on the football broadcast, and maybe there's a chance that you will hear me on a football call. But other than that, I am like literally the last resort. And actually, you know what? Shout out and mahalo to Paul Honda over at the Star Advertiser, because I think it was when we were setting up at a Mililani game, and then he was like, oh, because I get there way early to set up before our broadcasters get there. So he asked me like, oh, are you going to be on the call tonight? This was like Mililani Punahou or something. And I'm like, no way. Like, I don't get near the football thing. He's like, why? He's like, you know enough about football. I'm sure you could do it. I was like, aw, thanks. Like, I mean, like I said, worst case, I will. I'm not like, I think it will be better than just having like letting Kyle be by himself. Like, you know, I'll just be there to chime in here and there. But yeah, thanks, Paul, for believing that I could actually do a football podcast. But no, you will hear me only in basketball and soccer. And then again, like volleyball is the same thing. If I need to fill in, I will. I played very briefly as a kid, but I will rather leave it to people like your Chaz Mihara and our Scott Robbs when he comes in every once in a while, introducing Karen McLean, who's played. And then we have Sean Chang, who's the coach at Pearl City. So they do a fabulous job covering volleyball, and I will be behind the scenes where I need to be.
And that's the thing. We want to give people opportunities, but we also understand that we're not always the best people suited for the job. There are people who are better, and
the best bet is no bet.
The best bet is no bet. Those 4 people that you just listed off, phenomenal. Very thankful that they help us out here on Hawaii Sports Radio Network, just so we can bring you, the beautiful people, as much content as we possibly can, whether that be high school volleyball or, you know, college sports.
Yep. And speaking of, well, not only high school volleyball this week, but also we will have, Kyle mentioned it on our broadcast, we will have St. John Bosco versus Kahuku coming into town. Now, Kahuku, we'll talk to Darnell later on this week more extensively about some of these games, but Kahuku did get the game handed to them 55-8. Playing out there at Mater Day. So Mater Day not messing around, proving that they are one of the top programs, high school programs in the country, and where we thought, wow, this is like a Kahuku team that's supposed to be better than even last year. Well, Mater Day was not having any of that. So again, Darnell will join us a little later in the week to speak more about the details, but we will have Kahuku host. It's a different animal if you're going to play in Laie. So Bosco's coming to our house, so we'll have that right here on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network. But yeah, I can't believe we went on for that long. I'm sorry. I just realized we're way up against the break again. So we'll be back on Wake Up in the Den.
Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Ku'ulei Agbayani and Paul Brecht on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network and hawaiisportsradio.com, or check us out on social media at High Sports Radio. All right. So NFL Week 1, we'll probably get into more games since this is our last segment. I don't want to completely go all in and recap what happened yesterday, but we'll get into a little bit. Mostly, I got to tell you guys a funny story. As I mentioned in the beginning of the show, and you'll see on our YouTube, that I am still representing my Chicago Bears, even though, no surprise, but I was kind of surprised that they made Jordan Love look like Aaron Rodgers out there. So that was a little disappointing. Thank you very much. But I had talked with the guys after following our high school football broadcast on Friday that, the Bears at that point, and I told Kyle and Chaz, who are Green Bay Packers fans, I was like, yeah, I don't know what the betting market is thinking, or the odds makers, because the Bears are now favored by a point. And even Kyle's initial reaction was like, what? I'm like, I know, until they prove me otherwise. Even I don't care if Aaron Rodgers is gone. Like, until they prove otherwise. It's kind of similar to what we saw in Cincinnati and Cleveland, or Cincinnati and Cleveland.
You're
Oh my
right.
gosh,
Trust
I was
the gut.
right.
Trust the gut, Koo.
Oh my gosh, I'm just like all over the place. But no, it's kind of like that. Like, they just have their number. Like, I think Cincinnati, the Bengals will be fine, even though they lost to the Browns. But it's just one of those things. Same thing with the Bears and Packers. Like, the Packers, they do, in fact, pretty much own the Bears at this point. Until you prove otherwise, like, I will believe it. So I wasn't too surprised that, the Bears got spanked by the Packers 38-20. But fortunately, I didn't have to suffer through the second half, because let me tell you, this is my first experience with YouTube TV / Sunday Ticket, where you get all the games. So it was great. The other half had set it all up before he left on his trip to Michigan. And I'm like, great, Sunday morning comes, like, it feels like Christmas Day. All right, turn on the YouTube TV. It works great. Cool. Like, watching my games. But the Bears game is the second set of games. So it started at like 10:25-ish. And so got everything going, and watching the games, went through the first. It was awesome. Like, I get everyone wants to choose because you can do like a quad thing where you have red zone or you have all 4 games, yada yada yada. But I set it up. I didn't care. I was like, as long as I have red zones and can see the other games. Again, it almost felt like sensory overload to watch red zone in one box and then have other games on. But it's okay. Bears game wasn't on. Cool. Bears game comes. I'm like, all right. And when the Bears game is on, I only watch the Bears game. Like, I don't put on red zone or anything. But I check the scores or get the alerts if my fantasy player scores or whatnot. And watching the Bears game, it was a very competitive, first half. Like, it was really good. Bears only down by 1. And all right, we're looking all right. Justin Fields looked good, making plays. Could use a little more playmakers. DJ Moore made some couple big plays. We had some good runs. Okay, you know what? We're good. Halftime, I don't know what happened halftime of the game, but all of a sudden YouTube TV tells me to confirm my location or something, and in my mind I'm like, it's on the TV, like, it's sitting there on the, like, what? And then I go check my Wi-Fi is on. I turn on the location settings on my smart TV, kind of like your cell phone. I'm like, okay, and it still tells me. And the way you have to confirm it is logging in to your YouTube on your phone and confirming where you are. And I'm like, okay, the phone, because it's linked to the other half's account, is on an airplane in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And then I tried to log in, because I have his password. So I know, like, okay, let me go in to his Gmail and then, like, confirm it because I'm here, but then, and I get it, 2-step verification. I get it. I understand. I have 2-step verification on my stuff too. However, again, there's no 2-step because he's not here and can't access his phone. So I am locked out because it won't play, because with Sunday Ticket, it won't play the games that are in your market. So at that time, it was the Dolphins game and then another game. So anything that's on your, Fox or CBS here, they won't play on Sunday Ticket. I get that. So that's why it needs your location. But so I was SOL, and I'm like, all right, and I'm not proud of it, but I basically, my 30-something-year-old self turned into a toddler. Like, I was alone, and I was, like, screaming at my TV, and I was, like, throwing a huge fit, like, are you, like, banging the couch, like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I was so because the Bears game up until that point it was
a good game.
And I was a toddler for a good minute half. Maybe more. I'm not proud of it, but
I get that.
So
I would probably be in a very similar way.
I was insane. And then, finally I collected myself and I'm like, okay, there's more problems in the world, Kool-Aid. You need to relax. There's bigger issues. There's a lot going on in this world. You're having a complete meltdown about first world problems right now. So I'm like,
You're just still jazzed up from the Bows game on Saturday.
And I was like, the Bears are going to win. And then, so you know what? Whatever. So then I go and I watch at least I think it was the football powers that be that were like, you know what? We want to save you the second half misery of this Bears-Packers game. So I switched to the Dolphins-Chargers game, which was so fun, so entertaining, especially when you know, cheering for Tua, obviously, but not emotionally attached to any team winning, just wanting fun football. And that was some really, really fun football to watch, because as it turns out, the second half was just not good for the Bears-Packers game. So it saved me that extra frustration and misery of watching the Bears just completely blow it and let Jordan Love do what they did. And
it was the football gods stepping in.
Yeah.
That's all I'm hearing is the football gods stepped in, said, Ku'ule, you want to watch this game, not this one.
Yeah, that's exactly.
That's all it was.
Yeah.
And you made it. And you made it through. And guess what? You didn't have to suffer through that second half.
Yeah. Oh, well.
I'm hoping I can watch tonight. That's my hope right now.
I know. Paul might have a similar situation because of the ESPN stuff this afternoon.
I was going to say, I say tonight always. Whatever. I'm so used to. Actually, I say I'm so used to. I'm not used to this at all. The Jets haven't played at a nighttime game outside of like that Thursday contest last year. Last time they opened their season on Monday night, I think, was against the Lions, Sam Darnold's rookie year, which the first play of the game was a pick six. So I hope it's not that. I hope it's not that today.
By the way, one last story. And speaking of football gods, Paul, just real quick, and it's saving it for the end so we don't get too emotional. But I think your grandma was giving my grandma the play call at the UH football game, because I brought my grandma to her first UH game and she was calling out plays and it kept happening. And I'm like, you know what? I think Paul's grandma is like around calling, like giving my grandma the plays. So my grandma's showing how much she knows about football.
Our ladies, they know football.
They know football. For Paul Brecht, I'm Ku'ule. It's been Wake Up in the Den. Bye.